He's won multiple Emmys, Golden Globes, and even a Grammy Award. Currently, Beau is hard at work on 2 different series. You can see him regularly on Showtime's Masters of Sex, and he's starring with Will Arnett in the hit CBS comedy The Millers, which you can see Thursdays at 8:30 on Cairo 7 and other CBS affiliates nationwide. Beau Bridges, welcome to the Bob Rivers Show. Hi, Beau.
Hey, good morning, guys.
What a wonderful chance to talk to you and say hi. I've seen you in so many things. I don't know if people say this to you, but I feel like I know you, and yet you're lots of very different people.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you've enjoyed some of my stuff.
Yeah. Now you're doing 2 shows at this time. Is that by design, or does one happen first and then the other one comes along? And do they mind? Do they know about each other?
Yeah. No, it works out pretty amazing because they're both done in Los Angeles, where I live. And The Millers, I'm just wrapping up our season on that one. And then Masters of Sex, the Showtime show. Millers is on CBS, and then Showtime does Masters of Sex, and that one had a different schedule. So Masters of Sex will start up again right as I finish The Millers. So I'm able to do both of them, and also Showtime and CBS are sort of all part of the same professional conglomeration. So it's simpatico.
That's right. They are somewhat. They're all part of the same family. I didn't even think of that. But not everybody knows all that. So now in The Millers, you're a guy. You've been married for 43 years, and suddenly, what happens?
Well, we're living down. My wife and I are living in Florida. We come up to visit our son, and he tells us almost immediately that he's not happy in his marriage, and he wants to be happy, so he's getting a divorce. That pisses me off, and I'm walking out the door. He says, "Where are you going?" I say, "You want to be happy? Well, guess what? I want to be happy."
Yeah.
I decide to get out of Dodge. I leave my wife, and I move in with our daughter, who lives almost next door to our son. And my wife moves in with my son. And that kind of sets the table for the show.
Right. What a great situational comedy setup that is.
It's like a divorce that leads to a death sentence for every party involved.
Yeah, and we, of course, totally raise hell with the lives of our children.
Wow. Now, you also, and by the way, I watch Masters of Sex. My wife and I were actually surprised. We weren't sure what it would be about. We knew it's somewhat docudrama-ish, but we found it really interesting. It's about human beings and how we don't study or know much about. We didn't certainly know hardly anything about one of the primal forces of nature, and it sort of makes me think we still kind of don't in a way. What's your take on that series?
Well, it's about actual people, Masters and Johnson, who did all the sexual research back in the 50s. And I remember that very keenly because I was like in my late teens, I think, when that was all going on. And it was real groundbreaking and, turned a lot of people upside down in terms of how we felt about the whole sexual revolution, it was really what it was. Especially for women, it was quite liberating because at that time women were thought of to sort of just be along for the ride in a sexual experience.
Right, they weren't supposed to want to enjoy themselves, right?
That's right. And Masters said, well, not only are they along for the ride, but a lot of times they're driving the bus.
That's right.
It's a lot like The Millers with the whole, divorce prospect.
And your character is dealing with an issue that also was very, very closed-mouthed, very taboo then, which would be a guy who is gay but is keeping up the pretense of a marriage, and you have a serious big career, and you have to be really careful.
Yeah, it was a really tough time to be gay back in the 50s, and unfortunately, there's still a lot of ignorance afoot in the world today. But I'm glad to see that we seem to be kind of making strides in that direction of realizing that, the most important thing is that we all get a chance to be who we are in this world.
Treat each other nicely, no matter how messed up we don't understand things. I watch that show, and it's a little bit like the feeling I get when I watch Mad Men. I go, wow, were people actually that primitive? But then I have childhood memories that, yes, we were. And then I say to myself, how are we still primitive today that we're not quite, you know what I mean? There's things we're not really comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I think it's getting better, but that's true. And one of the joys of being an actor is to be able to be part of telling some of these important stories and getting conversations going and lifting up a few rocks in the process, hopefully.
You mentioned being a teenager in the 50s, Beau. I watched the Beatles special, and your brother Jeff, your little brother, came out and said, I want to thank my older brother Beau for turning me on to music. It was through his records that I learned to love rock and roll. Do you remember which records you were buying first, the records that really turned you on to music?
Yeah, well, when I can remember being in the same room with my brother during that Ed Sullivan show, and I was really upset with the Beatles because they were, in my mind, ripping off all my heroes. The guys I listened to was Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, those guys, Buddy Holly, and the Beatles were these mop-headed Englishmen that were trying to sound just like all my heroes. And I didn't really get into the Beatles until they did what no one else had done at that time, which was really cool. Was when they found their success, they did acknowledge all those legends and said, yeah, these are the guys that laid it down for us and taught us how to do our music. And then they ended up touring with a lot of those groups and those people and sort of helped reignite their careers.
At first, though, you thought they were copycats.
Yeah,
that's the weirdest thing. Yeah,
I sort of felt the same way about Elvis Presley too.
Huh.
He came in and he covered a lot of great rhythms and blues tunes. Like Hound Dog. Was first recorded by Little Willie John, who was one of my favorites, and it took me a while to get into Elvis. I finally did, because he was good too.
Well, I'm a huge fan of your dad's work. Everything from Sea Hunt to Airplane. What did your dad think about the Beatles and Elvis? And I mean, he's got two boys there going off the deep end for rock and roll.
Well, what's really weird is I have 5 kids myself, and I can't stand the music that they listen to now. And to me, it all sounds the same. And my dad said the same thing to me back then.
Just the way it goes.
Never changes.
You like that stuff? It all sounds the same. And I couldn't understand why he would say that, but I guess it's just a generational thing.
Beau Bridges. Beau, congratulations on 2 killer shows. Check out Beau in the #1 new comedy, The Millers. That's Thursday at 8:30. And Masters of Sex is probably working on the 2nd season right now, right?
No, I'm just finishing up The Millers, and I'll start in about a month doing Masters of Sex.
All right, so you're on year-round. You found a way to never be in reruns. Very good. Very well done. Legendary actor Beau Bridges. All right, take care, Beau.
Yeah, have a great day, guys. Good talking to you.